Good evening to you once again. South Africa has urged China to investigate reports that African nationals in the country have been subject to forced coronavirus testing, forced quarantine measures and other forms of ill treatment. The International Relations Department has said in a statement that as the chair of the African Union, South Africa is deeply concerned about those reports and has welcomed the AU Commission Chairperson's decision to summon the Chinese ambassador in Addis Ababa to provide an explanation regarding those reports. Let's take a look now. Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry has issued this statement, and in that statement, after the allegations of racism in China surfaced this week, the ministry has rejected all racist and discriminatory remarks and says everyone is being treated equally. So let's explore a bit more on this story now. Joining us on the line is a South African in Guangzhou, China, who's affected by this. She says she was tested for COVID-19 several times and the results came back negative. She says she is one of those who's been kicked out of her apartment. A very good evening to you, ma'am, and thank you very much for joining us live from Guangzhou in China.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. So I think let's start here, ma'am. You've asked us not to reveal any of your details. We know that there have been reports of discrimination against Africans in China. Can you tell us from your own experience what is happening there?
So on Monday, the 6th of April, a couple of people dressed in the COVID-19 suits came to my house, and they asked me some questions. It took about 30 minutes. Asked me questions about my travel history and anything that I've been doing in the past year since I've been here for 2 years, but in the past year that I've been in Guangzhou. And after the questions, then they took the test. So they put the swab on my throat, inside my mouth. And I was told that if the tests are negative, they will not call me the next day. But if the tests are positive, they will call me the next day. They did not call me, but however, I was told an hour after by my landlord that I need to move out of the apartment regardless of my results because the community and the police do not want foreigners in the neighborhood. I was told that I will move out after I serve my 14 days quarantine. But on Wednesday, I think it was the 8th, I was told that the next morning they will come and pick me up to put me at a hotel on my expense, and self-catering to do my 14-day quarantine, which was actually the day that most Africans were actually put under quarantine in Guangzhou. And now is also in the neighboring cities as well.
Yeah. From where you are, is this behavior just towards South Africans or towards Africans in general, from what you have seen?
From what I have seen, on Sunday and Monday, when we were talking, it was just South Africans as far as being tested that I know of. But eventually, a few friends of mine that I know that are not South African but African did come out as well, saying they got tested too. And some of them are at the hotel as well, doing the quarantine at the hotel as well. But some of them, they're doing it at home, their homes.
So you've been told to get out of your apartment. You've been put into a hotel. You said that is at your own expense. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how are you coping?
That's correct.
Yeah, how are you coping? Obviously, you did not budget for what has now taken place. And are there any other South Africans there or other colleagues from other parts of the African continent with you at that hotel?
Yeah, but we don't get to see each other because you cannot open your hotel room. The only time you open your hotel room is when they come in to do the test. They come twice a day for temperature check, and yesterday they did the COVID-19 test again on me.
And all this time you tested negative. I mean, what was the landlord's decision for throwing you out?
As she said, stated on the text that she sent me, it was that the police and the community do not want foreigners in the neighborhood that I'm living. My neighbors are Russian. They did not get tested, but they were also told to move out, but they did not get tested, and so did not my colleagues who are from the United States and from Europe. They did not get tested, and they're currently not under quarantine.
There are some reports and also visuals that we've seen here in South Africa. I'm not sure if you could confirm or deny any of what we've seen in terms of the picture that is being painted. We've seen some visuals on social media, some videos of, some Nigerian nationals and others as well, whose suitcases are basically in the street and they have nowhere to go. Do you know of any individuals who are stuck and have absolutely nowhere to go?
Yes, I do.
And what's the situation there?
Most of them are under the bridge in a place that we call Sangwan Lee, but they are getting help from other Africans, giving them food, giving them blankets, and some of the other Chinese with good hearts, they are helping them as well. But now that most Africans that I know of, are under lockdown, under quarantine, I don't know what's happening to the ones that are under the bridge.
So, and the discussions that you've been having, have you managed to get hold of the authorities, South African authorities? Have you had any feedback? Has anyone contacted you? We know that the Department of International Relations here in South Africa is aware of these allegations that are being made.
We did get an email that we can send to the DECO for all our issue situations, so we did that. Some people have gotten some calls to confirm their stories. However, I haven't received any call or any confirmation or any response as yet.
So any indication from there where you will go to if you're still going to have a job? I know those are some of the concerns that were raised by some of these South Africans who are finding themselves in a similar situation to you.
It is very difficult because when my quarantine ends, I honestly don't know what's going to be of me because I do not have an apartment now. And I've been trying to find an apartment in the past 7 days, but I've been kicked out. But it's difficult because most places say no Africans or they say no foreigners. So it is difficult. As far as now, I do not have a place that I will be going to when the lockdown is, when the quarantine is finished.
I saw some posters as well, these all circulating, but I have to ask you, as somebody who is in Guangzhou, some of the posters outside some of the shops that are selling bread and selling some supplies indicating that no foreigners are allowed to purchase some of the goods inside those shops. Is that true?
Yes. One of my colleagues actually went through that while I was under lockdown. He was told to leave the store as no foreigners are allowed.
What's the sense of what all of you are feeling there right now? Definitely a sense of uncertainty. You just said you don't know where you're going to go after the quarantine period is over. What is the general sense from not just South Africans there, but all those from the African continent?
Speaking from what I know from a few friends of mine, we're just worried when this ends, if it ends, will it really end? Because now there is an image about us being sick. So I believe that that's going to be a very difficult thing to overcome. And everywhere we go, no one wants to sit next to us or walk next to us. They go the opposite direction. So it's very difficult and quite honestly unfair.
Ma'am, we're going to have to leave it there. We really do appreciate your time here at SABC News. Thank you very much for speaking to us live from Guangzhou, China. We're, of course, speaking to a South African there who says basically Africans are being discriminated against during this period of the fight against COVID-19. You heard her say there, we're not allowed to mention her name. She says she does not feel comfortable mentioning her name at this time, but painting a picture of certainly some of the reports that have been coming from that side of the world, what we've also seen on social media. She basically saying majority of that is true. We earlier did give you a response from the Chinese ministry as well as the Department of International Relations, of course South Africa, calling for an investigation into what we're now hearing from this South African live from Guangzhou in China.